Sometimes in life, we have things happen to us that we cannot explain. Does that mean they're supernatural or paranormal? Perhaps not. But for these people, these unexplainable things made them question everything about life, about what is possible, and about what is really out there. Enjoy. The night was young, and a girl I had a crush on for the longest time asked if I wanted to see a movie with her. Jumping at the chance, I said yes. To my surprise, when we get there, she takes into no consideration what movie I want to see and asks for 2 tickets to Paranormal Activity. A little bit about myself. I'm a pussy, especially when it comes to scary movies. I couldn't give a fuck what anyone else calls me. I like to sleep at night, and seeing these movies doesn't help. Not wanting to seem like a pussy to the girl I liked, I agreed to see it. Shit my pants, screamed my ass off, yelled more than her. She had to hold me. All in all, it was a good date. Fast forward to when I get home. I'm petrified. I can't go to sleep, so I have the TV on. I have the controller to the TV right next to my face and eventually fall asleep. A couple of hours later, I wake up and it's pitch dark in my room. I freak out and start searching for the TV remote to turn the TV on. I search left and right and all over my bed and I can't find it. Panic strikes me and I make a dash for the lamp next to my bed. I turn it on and look all over for the remote. It's nowhere to be found. That's when I look at the TV, and I shit you not. Standing vertically, I might add, on the top of the TV is my remote. Staring at me, as if it were asking me to grab me. I dare you. Did I mention it was standing up vertically? I let out a scream. My parents woke up. My brother woke up. The dogs. The whole fucking neighborhood. They rushed into my room, but by the time they got there, the controller was lying flat. All in all, I didn't sleep well for at least a month, and I never spoke to the girl again. We were high schoolers, and it was Black Friday. We drove to a huge mall maybe an hour away. It was about 3 a.m. when we left, and being a bunch of bored kids, we decided to try and take a little detour through the woods. So we duck off the interstate onto a 2-lane highway. No other cars for at least a half an hour at this point. We're driving through the woods, and come over a hill into a valley with a river at the bottom. I guess the dew point must have just reached because immediately after we turn over the hill, fog starts billowing from out of nowhere. I've never seen anything like it. You could see the outlines of the clouds in the darkness, and that was it. By now we were spooked, but still being dumb and bored, we dare a few of us to go running out into the fog. So we pull over, and with the fog lights, there's maybe about 30 feet of visibility. 3 of us get out of the car, walk forward a little, and suddenly it gets cold. A huge blast of wind, and now the fog is so thick, you literally cannot see your hand in front of your face. At this point, we started getting really scared and ran back to the car, except I tripped. That was scary enough, but it gets worse. At this point, all 4 of us are freaking out. We need to get home, or at least get out of the fog. We drive a little and see a sign for Old Mine Road. And the fog looks a little better, so we pull onto it to figure out what's going on. My friend's car has a navigation system, and we were on our phones trying to use Google Map. We're driving along this unpaved road, and the fog gets a little better. We turn a corner, and the headlights lit up what must have been 20 or so deer. But not the deer, just their eyes. I don't know if they were deer since deer's eyes don't normally glow green, but I really need to think that they were deer for my own sake. At this point, we were freaking out. We tried to turn around, except now the fog has gotten even worse. GPS says it's another 5 minutes away to a big highway, so we decided to just keep going, all on edge. We're almost home free. We return one more corner, and there's just a pile of trash in the middle of the road, as if some hoarder just dumped everything off in the middle of the woods. The driver slows down to get around it, and all of us are just staring at this trash. Something is up with it, we can tell. At this point, I would recommend you look up what is known as the rake. From northeastern America, specifically the border of Connecticut and New York, where we were. The rake, to my understanding, is a half-man, half-dog hybrid that roams the woods and hunts packs of deer. And I swear to God, the fucking rake just erupted from underneath the trash. I took one look at it before promptly pissing my pants. It had a pale, ghastly white face, similar to Voldemort, hunched back, wispy body hair, fangs, and was extremely skinny. And it had black eyes, completely unnatural. The driver guns it, and all of us are screaming bloody murder as we fly down the road. Have you ever been so afraid that you've had to puke? Because that is primal terror. We pulled over at a gas station near our houses and just lost it. 3 of us pissed ourselves. The rake is very much real, and it is fucking terrifying. Stay on the highways for your own sake. It was 10:30, and I was laying on the couch, jamming out through my earbuds and playing on my iPad. I closed my eyes while listening to Lithium by Nirvana, when I noticed the song just cut out. I opened my eyes, and I'm outside, in the cul-de-sac, at the other end of my neighborhood, about a half a mile away, wearing nothing but pajama bottoms in below freezing temperatures, just staring out into a cornfield. I walked back to my house, and when I get to my room, I saw it was 3 a.m. No clue what happened, but I had apparently scribbled in my school notebooks and put out the fireplace during my little nighttime adventure. I had thought it was all a dream until I woke up the next day, and my mom asked about all the grass I had shaken off my pants onto the floor. Me and 3 buddies were hanging out late one night in a car on a dark street. You fill in the blank. I picked this particular street because my grandma lived on it, and I was very familiar with the neighborhood. I knew the families that lived in most of the houses on that block. Elderly people. When we pulled up, I surveyed the houses. Everyone's lights were off. We should have no trouble parking here for as long as we want. I had the driver park in front of my grandma's friend's house on the corner. My grandma's friend, a lot like my grandma, was an old woman who went to bed very early. No family lived with her, no husband. Knew her most of my life. My grandma's friend lived on a medium-sized lot, and her house was on a small hill. Small, but steep, a nightmare to mow. I'm sitting in the back behind the passenger seat. The car is still running at this point. We hadn't been there for more than 2 or 3 minutes. We had just begun our activities when I catch a glimpse of something moving in the passenger side mirror. I look out the window, and what I saw scared the shit out of me then, and still scares me to this day over 10 years later. I saw the silhouette of a person lying on their stomach, doing an army crawl, really fucking fast on the side of the hill, and it was headed right for us. This thing was moving quick, and I'm telling you, I don't know how it's even possible to lie flat on the ground and crawl that fast, let alone on the side of a hill. It wasn't going down the hill. It was moving parallel along the side of it. I screamed for the driver to go. This thing had covered some serious fucking ground in a matter of seconds. It was within 5 or 6 feet of my door, and we squeal-taired the fuck out of there. As we got to the end of the street and turned onto Main Road, the driver and my buddy next to me in the back were yelling, "What the fuck, man? Was it the cops?" I couldn't speak. I was so fucking scared. It had only been 10 or 15 seconds since we bolted down the street, and I just wanted to get as far away from that road as possible. I couldn't process what I had seen. I didn't want to. I looked at my friend in the passenger seat up front, and he had an absolutely terrified look on his face. And I said, "You saw it too, didn't you?" He didn't say anything. He just kept looking in the side mirror and then back to the dashboard. By this time, my 2 other friends were pretty mad, and emotions were starting to escalate. I told them I saw somebody or something crawling toward the car really fast, and I asked my friend to back me up. All he did was nod, and then he asked us to drop him off at home. I wanted him to tell us what he saw, but he refused. All he would say is that he saw something. At that time, that was good enough for me. I was just relieved I wasn't the only one that saw it. I don't know who or what it was, and I hated going to my grandma's house after that. Didn't really want to be around her friend after that either. The thought of a 60-year-old woman army crawling that fast at 1 a.m. still scares the hell out of me. I was watching The Exorcist when I was 16, and my grandmother came home and told me to turn it off, because that was the last movie my grandfather watched the night he died. About 20 minutes later, I saw him rocking in the chair next to my couch, and no matter how many goddamn times I put the blanket over my head, he stayed there until he looked at me, smiled, and vanished. I still can't watch that movie to this day, and that was 18 years ago. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, and the house I rented last year was built in the mid-1800s. Things would often fall off the counters. We would hear crashing noises all the time, and when we went to go investigate, stuff would be lying broken on the floor, even though no one else was home. The weirdest occurrence of this happened when my roommate and I heard a noise from the kitchen, and when we walked in there, a painting was in the middle of the floor, 7 feet away from where it was hanging, and the water was running. One night I was laying in bed about to fall asleep, and I got the sense that someone else was in my room. My stomach dropped, and my hair stood on end. I got extremely anxious, and suddenly my body felt like there was an electric current going through it. I heard a distinctly human voice right next to my ear. A man's voice, speaking complete gibberish. I was paralyzed with fear, and ended up sleeping on the couch that night. Unfortunately, this started happening more often, about once a month, right as I was falling asleep. I would get a sense that something wasn't right, and I would hear voices. One time, I heard a woman laughing. Another, I heard someone say, "My name is Evan." Sometimes it was just gibberish. On 2 occasions, I felt like my body was moving when it actually wasn't. One time, my body felt like it was levitating, and another like it was being dragged across the floor. But at the same time, I could feel that my body was laying in bed. It was very odd. I stopped telling people after the first time because I thought they would think I was crazy. I honestly thought I was either schizophrenic or possessed. I was so fucking scared to even go to bed. This is when I found out what sleep paralysis was. All the symptoms fit. The electric current feeling running through my body, the hallucination, and the temporary paralysis. I was so relieved to have a medical explanation. However, I had never experienced it before moving into that house, and I have since moved out and have not experienced it again. I'm a very logical person, and I'm happy to accept sleep paralysis as the answer. But part of me feels like it was something more. My father's old house was huge. 5 bedrooms and on quite a lot of land. Very secluded. It couldn't be seen from the road or nearby park and was surrounded by bushland. It was winter, so there were no windows open and we didn't have heaters in the house. It was probably around 10 p.m. at night. I was the last one awake and I decided I wanted to call it a day. I did my usual routine before bed and lay down to go to sleep. I was lying there for probably 10 minutes when I could feel some kind of pressure on the bottom of my bed. I thought that maybe I was entering the sleep stage, so thought nothing of it. Then the pressure started going around my legs, not on them, but all around them and between my legs. I freaked out and did what any normal person does. I froze and hoped it would go away. After 5 more minutes of just pressure on my legs, it lifted. I remember my heart beating so fast. I sat up in bed and tried to shake off the adrenaline when I felt a hand press against my face and a massive gust of air blow my hair back. I freaked the fuck out and slept on my dad's floor that night. We moved soon after because my stepmother started to have weird experiences too. I'm not saying it was paranormal. It was just something that I could not and still cannot understand or explain. Outside of Huntsville, Texas, there's a road they call Demon Road. It runs parallel to another road. In between is an old cemetery and a dirt road connecting the 2 roads. Rumor has it that on Demon Road there was a car accident and a police shootout that left 2 people dead. The car was never taken from the spot it crashed in, and the angry spirits never left. About 4 years ago, I went down there with some friends to investigate. We parked on the dirt road and a truck pulled in from the other side. KC daylighters on, blinding me. A woman got out, and I thought I was going to die. Technically, we were trespassing. She walked up to my window and said, "You be careful." She got back in her truck and drove off. I got out and headed down Demon Road. About a quarter mile down the road, I felt a cold punch on my chest and froze in my tracks. I tried to walk forward, and again, felt a press on my chest. I decided something was telling me it was a bad idea to continue. About 30 minutes later, the group came back and we started comparing pictures, audio, and EMF readings. We caught some quality pictures and EMF readings, but no audio. That's when one of the girls asked the guy next to her, "Why did you pull my hair?" He said he didn't, and about 10 seconds later she screamed, "Something jerked my ponytail." We scrambled back to our cars and sped back to the city. When we got back to civilization, I got out and saw handprints and finger drawings all over my car. The most compelling were the 2 smeared handprints on the trunk, like someone was hanging on, lost grip, and slid down the trunk. The Roman numeral 12 was also fingered into the dust. I don't try to make sense of what happened that night, but that will always be burned into my mind as the absolute scariest encounter of my life. What about you? Have you experienced something that you cannot explain? Has something left you questioning everything you thought was possible? Perhaps you yourself will experience something you might find you cannot explain. If you have a story you would like to see featured here, please contact me through any of my social media links or email me at DuchessDark676@gmail.com. See you next time.